Welcome to another exciting and informative episode of the Entreprenudist Podcast, the place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. I am your host, Randolph Love III, and this episode is no different. We have another entrepreneur and business owner to grace you with his presence. But before we bring him on, I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Shield Wolf Strongholds, a wealth growth and protection company when it comes to estate planning, when it comes to business planning, when it comes to retirement planning, life insurance, and retirement planning. If your plan ain't Shield Wolf, your plan ain't strong. If you are a business owner that wants you and your employees to retire higher than you would have prior, make sure you visit shieldwolfstrong.com or call or text us at +1 904 822 4262. That's +1 904 822 4262. Now to our guests. We have Matt Meredith Esquire, CFP, Certified Financial Planner, is the founder of Meridian Legal Advisors, the next generation law firm focused on estate planning, tax strategy, and asset protection. With over 15 years of experience, Matt blends legal insight, tax expertise, and investment strategy to create plans that go far beyond traditional cookie-cutter approaches that stop at surface. Before founding Meridian, Matt spent 4 years lending his own practice. And I'm sorry. Sometimes when I read, especially at the end of the day, I start flustering, but I don't want to mess up this man's introduction. Before founding Meridian, Matt spent 4 years leading his own practice, the law office of
Robert and Meredith.
I don't know, because what it is when you first came on, you said your law practice is the same as your name. So when I see Meridian, I be wanting to say Meredith, and then when I see Meredith, I want to say Meridian, but I'm going to figure it out. One thing about it, I do. Before founding Meridian, Matt spent 4 years leading his own practice, the law office of Robert M. Meredith, where he guided clients not only in planning their estates, but also in navigating the challenges of probate and trust administration. Having seen firsthand how difficult it could be for families to close estates and for trustees to carry out complex instructions, Matt designs plans with administration in mind, ensuring they work in practice, not just on paper. Earlier in his career, he held leadership roles at JP Morgan Securities and Capital One Investing, and today he also manages client investments through his affiliation with LPL Financial. Through Meridian, Matt delivers a one-stop shop by bringing together legal, tax, and financial disciplines under one roof. Families, entrepreneurs, and professionals no longer need to hire separate attorneys, CPAs, and financial advisors. Instead, Matt integrates law, tax, and investment into a holistic plan that shields assets, reduces taxes, and preserves wealth for the next generation. Even if a host don't know how to read or pronounce it, Matt, welcome to the Entreprenudist Podcast.
Thank you, Randolph. Good to be here.
Hey, man, how long? And I see over 15 years of experience. Is your bio right up to date? Or are you right at 15 years? Is it longer than 15 years now?
So I've been in the financial services industry for over 20 years. I started as an equities trader. We ran a trading desk, was out in Boca enjoying the beach. This was the time Lehman was collapsing. And so after that, it was let's shift. And so 20 years in financial services law. I've been fully licensed since 22 and kind of started before that. Knew it well. But as I mentioned to you, they said, you're not a lawyer. Stop giving legal advice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Me, whenever I speak, I always say in general, right? And every time I do a presentation, I make sure everybody know I am not an attorney and this is information, not advice. But it sounds like you're somebody, you got tired of saying in general. You got tired of giving the disclaimer. You went ahead and got the licenses you need to succeed.
Oh, by far, there's a lot of issues with the industries altogether. You've got multiple disciplines, but they're all very closely related. And the way the industry is well, go see your CPA, go see your attorney, come back to your financial planner guy, go see your business guy. And the problem with this is nobody's aligning. Nobody's talking with each other. The client has 4 or 5 different advisors talking and paying to all these different people, but no one's sitting over it saying, look, this needs to be done this way. And so Meridian was finally the total culmination of what the dream was back when I decided, hey, I'm going to go to law school. Let's build something that is truly a one-stop shop. And let's have the client sit down, have all these different advisors from estate planning, business, asset protection, financial planning, tax strategy. And let's say, this is where you're at. This is where you want to go. This is how you do it. And so that's the goal. That's my entrepreneurial spirit and goal.
Oh yeah, it's like a game of telephone. I think everybody knows that game of telephone where you put a couple people in line and then you tell the person in the back, this is you tell them a sentence, and by the second or third person, that sentence has completely changed. And a lot of people will compare the game of telephone to somebody saying, all right, well, my attorney said this, let me tell my CPA, let me tell my insurance broker. But by the time that person shares that information with that CPA, with that insurance broker, it has completely changed. And sometimes for good reason, that attorney or that insurance broker or that banker or that CPA might say, hey, that's not a good idea, but not realizing they're saying this is not a good idea because they told them the wrong thing.
Very true. Or even more so, I find it more often, they start arguing. Well, they're not actually talking to each other, which is the first problem. So your CPA comes up with a strategy, the attorney comes up with a different strategy, and the client's left there like, what am I supposed to do here? And ultimately, when I was, and still today, they come back to me, the guy who would refer it out, and say, thanks a lot, Matt. I don't know what to do now. I'm paying all these people a lot of money and I have no idea what's going on. I'm moving my account. And you're sitting there saying, well, wait a minute, I was trying to help you. And that was the main reason. There's got to be a better way. What is it?
There has to be a better way. And I definitely want to get into a better way, but I like to start every show by asking, is there nothing that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
Oh, Randall, I got a list.
Let's go. Let's go, man.
I think the ultimate one is patience. That to me has been the one I've been learning the most lately. And the beautiful thing about patience is you have to be careful when you ask for patience, because God will give you patience. God has no problem making you wait. And so with business, a lot of the things it's not just the conception, it's pulling it off, being patient with it, realizing that it takes time to move a mountain. And so that's one of the key things. But the other one that I've learned the most is it's one thing to go and become a professional at something, to go to law school, study tax, read the Internal Revenue Code, understand estate planning, understand business and formation and how it all works together. But none of that does you any good unless you get out there and market your message. And for a lot of people, that's the hardest part. And for me, it's always been the hardest part. My wife for years has said, look, you're phenomenal, but no one knows that you can do this. You have to get on camera. You have to tell people. You have to make videos and dance in TikTok, which I still refuse to do the TikTok dances for today. You never know, Randolph. And that has been the biggest struggle and realization that marketing is not a concept of a business for an entrepreneur. It's key. If you can't get your message out, if you're not trying to get that message out, your business is going to have a very hard time. I may be the most phenomenal guy. I can save you hundreds of $1,000s in taxes, but if you don't know who I am, we're never going to meet.
Oh, yeah. One of the most important things, not just as an individual, but also as a business owner, of course, is that people know you exist. And if they don't know you exist, just like your wife said, she said, you're phenomenal. at what you do, but nobody knows you can do this. You got to record yourself. At first, I thought you were about to tell me that y'all were swangers, but then when you tied it back to the marketing, it's when you're dealing with the ebbs and flows of the industry. A lot of people, when things pull back, one of the things that they stop putting money into is the marketing, when really and truly that should be the last thing that they stop putting money in.
100% agree. And you see it all the time. Companies do really well. They take off because they're pushing this marketing, and then they stop, and the company comes right back down. And so learning now, and the funny thing is my background was advertising and marketing. So I knew the importance of it. But it's one thing to say, okay, let's go hire a marketing person to help you do it. When you're the face of the company, it needs to be you doing it. You need to be on screen. You need to be coming up with the ideas and the designs, and you need to be pushing it out. Another lesson I have learned to go with this is it's very hard to do it all on your own. So you need a team. And finding a team is critical, I feel, to most people who are building a company, is who can I trust, who's going to do the job. And I'm the type, I like to know how everything's done. I want to know how editing videos works, or how creating questionnaires on CRM for clients works. Not just because I need to do it if no one's there to do it, but I also want to know how long it takes me to do it. How much time should be spent in it? Because if I'm paying people to do this, I need to know what it's going to cost me to do it versus what I'm paying other people for. But a lot of that, you can't obsess over it when you're the sole character of your own company, because you need the help. And so there's a lot of juggling and balancing that I find you learn as you go.
Oh yeah, definitely. You gotta juggle, you gotta balance, and it's juggling and balancing. Literally, when you see somebody juggling and balancing at a circus, that require a lot of patience. And just like you said, you need patience, and patience is a virtue. And it also, it reminds me of whenever let's say it's a little girl, what are historically, I don't know if people still do this, but historically, if a family is telling their little girl who to marry when she grows up, what are the two professions that they typically tell you to look for? Do you know?
No, I don't.
Attorney or doctor? When you grow up, make sure you marry an attorney or doctor, right? And what made me think about it is patience, right? It's that play on words. But one thing about it is, so perception wise, attorney or doctor are considered some of the highest levels that you can achieve in the highest industries that you can be in. But what does an attorney call what they do? A practice. What does a doctor call what they do? A medical practice, a law practice. The people at the highest level perception wise know that they're practicing at being perfect. And to continue practicing at being perfect, it does require a lot of patience. And I imagine for you to become an attorney, it required a lot of patience of you.
It required a lot. And doing tax law, in law school, you meet all kind of different people going into different disciplines. And I remember studying for corporate tax, like my final semester there. And I had a friend who was doing Second Amendment law, and they were watching movies. And I was memorizing the Internal Revenue Code and said, man, I should have gone that way.
Oh yeah, man, you got to run towards the pain. And just like you, when you said you learned what you needed to learn, not to keep doing it forever in your business, but to know how much time it takes. I've ran into those scenarios. I edited my own videos, and then when I'm talking to somebody that I hired to edit videos, and they talking about 3-4 days, and I'm like, 3-4 days, and I know exactly how it can go. I think what you are conveying, and what I agree with, you don't need to know everything, but you need to know enough to not be taken advantage of.
100% agree. Unfortunately, I have some great marketing team right now, but you really only come to know this by doing it yourself and realizing this is what it's going to take me. Let me go find somebody that can do it. Faster than me, better than me. and done at a price that is reasonable. And so it really helps business better when you understand the different parts of it. Now, do I want to do my accounting books? No, absolutely not. I'll hand that over. I'll look at them at the end of the year. There's certain things I just don't want to do. But as a business owner, we still need to know the whole process.
Oh, yeah. You definitely have to know the whole process to not be taken advantage of. And in speaking of not being taken advantage of, there are a lot of hidden lawsuits when it comes to safeguarding somebody's wealth. How do you help your clients safeguard their wealth for the future?
So the U.S. in particular is a very litigious nation. That's what I've come to call it. I've lived months at a time. My wife is from Mexico, so I've spent a lot of time in Mexico. It's a different atmosphere. There's not all these litigious suits happening left and right. People will get up, brush each other off, and move along their way. U.S. is a different place. It's business. And if you can make money from misfortune, fantastic. And so for a lot of us, we build things. We put all of our effort, our sweat and blood, tears into something, and then we just leave it over there for somebody to grab. And it's not when we talk about hidden, it's not the lawsuits you would think of. For example, if I mess up doing something in law, there's a chance it could happen. That's what malpractice is insurance is for. We understand that, hey, these type of things happen. It's the little things that we never anticipate. Driving home one day and getting a wreck, somebody dying from it, or several people being really hurt, and suddenly your insurance won't cover it all. And so then they're coming after you personally. Or other relations. I always talk about people who are at the bar and they get in a fight. And the next thing you know, they're being sued, and maybe insurance isn't even going to cover that for them. And so now their personal assets are attacked. Or things where you're doing everything right in your business, but you're commingling your funds, not realizing that, hey, personal assets have to be separated from business assets. So now all of a sudden you don't have that protection. Here's one I see all the time. The guy who opens up his LLC and forgets to file his franchise taxes in Texas and gets a letter stating, hey, your business is defunct. And so now if you're doing something, somebody gets hurt, an employee gets hurt, well, there's no protection. It's these little things that are hidden that we don't think about. And so the way asset protection works, it's not complex. It's very simple. Get it out of your name. That's the beauty of a lot of this stuff. Just like an LLC for your business is a separate entity, you can have an LLC or other types of structures that are separate. And they can operate or even hold assets for you so that if you do something and it leaks over into your personal life, these are all separated out and protected from your mistakes or these hidden lawsuits.
Oh, yeah. That commingling of funds allow the courts or someone who wants to sue you to do what they call pierce the corporate veil, right? And
my favorite word.
It sounds beautiful, right? It sounds almost like something from Harry Potter or Game of Thrones. He just pierced the corporate veil. But no, 2025, you don't want to hear that language.
No, right? You don't. I had a client and they were told this and they're like, oh, that's a really cool saying. And I looked at the client and said, no, we don't want to ever hear that again. So.
No matter how eloquently it rolls off your tongue, you don't want to hear that. And also I heard you mention that even if a person has all of their entities set up correctly to where they are protected, that their liability is limited if something were to happen while they're performing their business. But just like you mentioned, people typically don't tie in that, all right, yeah, your business, if you were to do something that you're liable for while performing business, you're taken care of. But if you, the person, does something, now that just put everything in your business in jeopardy, all of your businesses, all of your assets.
100%. I hear from a lot of doctors, neurosurgeons who are, look, you've got to get everything out of my name because if there's something that goes wrong, this is high risk surgeries we're doing. I don't want anybody coming after everything I've worked for. And so professionals in particular, everyone sits and thinks that, oh, it's the ultra wealthy. It's not the ultra wealthy. Being my background, financial advising, wealth management, I've seen where something small has happened. A lawsuit comes and then a judgment is thrown on a brokerage account, and the advisor has, several $1 million in the person's personal name, and that's now up for grabs in a creditor judgment. And so it's little things like that. Protect your assets. You don't have to have billions. You don't even have to have millions. It's at what point is what you've built and what you work for worth protecting? That's pretty much the line for me. And to be honest, I've worked very hard. That number is very low for me starting out. And then everything that grows is already protected because it's in the right box.
Oh, yeah. People really have to change the way that they look at these things. Just like you said, a lot of people think to themselves, oh, I'm not that wealthy, so I don't have to speak to someone like Matt. Right. But not realizing, you and I, of course, you at another level as an attorney, and I work with a lot of attorneys, and I pay your fees to just write one letter. I pay y'all hundreds of dollars just to write one letter, right? It's worth all that school, right? But what a lot of people don't realize is the wealthier you are, the less money means to you. So as people, like, for example, when I'm helping people plan for retirement, I have to replace less of a percentage of that wealthiest person active income than I have to do for a not so wealthy. I have to replace more of a percentage for that not so wealthy person's income in retirement, which means your $100 is your $1 million. Your $10,000 is your $1 million, and it's actually worth a lot more. How do you get people to have that paradigm shift and to change their perspective on how they look at these things?
I think for a lot of people, it's the conversation of what happens if something goes wrong. And so when we talk about this, Meridian in particular being the one-stop shop, it's all of this is being formed at the same time. So when we're creating a business for somebody, and it could be a very simple business, construction type business or real estate type business, the conversation comes down to, well, how is this going to be owned? How are we going to protect this going forward so that the business itself is protected, you're protected, or vice versa? And so a lot of it it's really just education. A lot of people don't think, or they'll say, look, I've got umbrella policies, I've got insurance, I'll be fine. But that's not the case. And we see it all the time that that's not the case. And so the more people learn about it and learn that, hey, it's not this crazy thing like it used to be 20 years ago where only the wealthy were doing it. It costs a fortune to do it. It's affordable. And if you're going to do something, do it right. That's always been my motto. It goes with life too. If you're going to live, then live. And so there's this amazing feeling that comes when all of this stuff is aligned that, hey, if I die tomorrow, my business is what I've worked for so hard will continue on. This has been set up. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know, hey, if you're a sole member and your business doesn't have succession planning or it's not controlled by a trust, it has to go through probate. Even when it has succession planning as, a successor manager coming in, it's still going to have to go through probate. And there's stories all over the internet where this booming business, the guy suddenly dies, his wife can't do anything with it, sells it 30 cents on the dollar. And this was his legacy. And it comes down to, again, it's as the world gets smarter, as they watch more Facebook education and understands that, hey, everything I'm building can be protected and it's not this ridiculous fee that it used to be, they're wanting to do it more and more. I get a lot more calls now about asset protection and business formation than I ever did over the last several years, simply because it's becoming a common thing now, which is fantastic.
Oh, yeah. And I think if you were to ask a lot of men, they will say, maybe begrudgingly, but they will say they don't mind if their wife remarries after they pass away, but they don't want their wife to have to remarry when they passed away. They want them to have an option. And it sounds like what you in your company allow people to do is to set things up to have those options. And to me, having options is the point of life.
Absolutely. And it goes even further than that. Your business is one part of your puzzle of life. And so then you have the estate plan. And a lot of people, what I see very common is blended marriages. And what I see really upsettingly is, hey, the kids get nothing. He had children from before, or she had children from before. The one parent passed away, the other one remarries, wants to make sure, look, we've been together 15, 20 years. I'm giving my wife everything because she's my wife. And they forget that it's now the wife's, and their kids have now, unless proper planning has been done, their kids may not get anything. And so it's the realization that there's all these turning points. Your business is connected, your estate plan is connected, your trusts are connected, and you're taking into account things that you just don't think about, making sure, hey, if I do get remarried, my children will be protected when I'm gone, and my spouse will too.
Oh, yeah. What you're talking about is when somebody passes away intestate. That's another one of those beautiful multi-syllable words, passing away without a will. Right. And it's one thing for a husband or a wife to make the conscious decision. Hey, those kids, I don't like those kids anyway. Yeah, they came out of me, but I don't like them anyway. It's one thing for you to make the conscious decision to leave everything to your spouse in this blended family. It's another thing for it to be happening without you realizing, because what happens is when you pass away intestate, you have an estate plan, but it's not your estate plan. It's going to, all of your assets are going to pass to your closest surviving relative. And when you're married, your closest surviving relative is your spouse. When I went to the American college, we call that the last to die wins. The last to die wins. Because what ends up happening, just like you said, you pass away, your biological children get nothing. It goes all to your spouse. And when your spouse passes away, if they don't remarry, then it's going to go to their kids, still not to your kids. And don't let them mess around and remarry, because then if they pass away, your stuff is going to go through to a dude or a man that you never even met before.
So Texas has some protections where other states don't. Texas allows common law. So in this example of what we're talking about, it's the children can be more protected if there is no will than sometimes if there is a will. Because what we'll see often is, okay, I remarried, I've been together for 15 years with her. I want her to have everything until she dies, but you're not guaranteeing your children anything. So it could be that she passes away with a lot of money. Well, it goes her estate. Her estate may not include your children. And there's no contractual law. There's a saying, wills are not contractual between husband and wife. So there's no guarantee that she has to do that. And so what I see quite often is, okay, he gave everything or she gave everything to the new spouse, and then the new spouse took it all and gave nothing to the children. Now, would that have wanted that to happen? Typically, no, absolutely not. But these are the type of planning that needs to be done when you have blended family and you have children and you want to make sure they're getting something from your estate. And they're just common mistakes that you see all the time.
Oh, yeah. If you fail the plan, you plan to fail. So I know we talked about those struggles. Are there no other struggles in probate? And if so, how do they strengthen and protect against it?
So here's the biggest issue I see in probate, and it's typically not a drafting issue. It's not an attorney issue. It's not really any issue except for who's going to manage the estate or who's going to run the trust. And so what I see a lot, having done probate and sitting in probate courts and just listening, is mom picks the oldest child or mom picks the most successful child. Well, the problem with that is most successful child has 3 kids, is married, has a beautiful business, is running that business. And now mom passes away and this child has to stop all that and go handle this estate. And so what happens a lot of times is there's no time for it. And so it drags on. Then the other beneficiaries get angry. Then you start having infighting, and then somebody yells out, "You're not qualified." And so now you have litigation issues. Somebody's bringing we want a new executor, and the person picked is like, "I'm completely capable of doing this. I'm going to argue against this." And so when I see a lot of mistakes, it's normally who's in charge to run the estate, who's in charge to run the trust. The other option becomes when we have this question or this topic comes up, and I ask the question, well, are you sure your son or your daughter who's really busy has time for this? And then it shifts completely the other way. Oh, you're right. He probably doesn't. Let me give it to little Joey. He doesn't do anything. He's got all the time in the world. He can stop playing video games for a few hours and go out there and handle this estate. That's just as bad. And so a lot of times picking the right person to manage the plan you've come up with is just as important. Well, not a lot of times, every time. It's just as important as making sure you put down what you want in a will or a trust or what your eternal plans are.
Oh yeah. What we like to say over here is there's no trust police. There's no trust police, right? Because I think when somebody is named as an executor or a successor trustee, I think initially at first, it's almost like a sign of honor, respect. Oh, this person saw me as the most responsible person. This person saw me as the most trusted person. But just like you said, around year 2 or 3, even if you are good at what you're doing, now all of a sudden you've become isolated from everybody. And just like you said, a lot of times the parent picks the most successful child, but now that successful child starts growing some resentment to the other siblings. While we're going through this at least 18-month process, depending on where you are, while we're going through this process now, I'm having to pay the taxes. I'm having to do this, and we all have a quote unquote equal share, and you don't want to help, but you don't want to sign anything either. What they say is a lot of people say where there's a will, there's a way. What we like to say is where there's a will, there's a probate, right? So yeah, it's a lot that you have to deal with when it comes to that. And so what's your opinion on corporate trustees? Is that something that you advise on, or what's your advice when it comes to, all right, maybe the most successful child isn't, and maybe the child playing a video game isn't. What's the solution?
I think most of us have a solution. It may not be the children. It could be a close friend, somebody who has the time and the experience. Here's what a lot of people don't understand. When you're in charge of an estate, you have to sell property. You have to sell homes. You have cars. You have all these assets. There's also an emotional tie to it. We moved my dad, when my mother passed away, we moved my dad closer to my sister, and we cleaned that house out. Randall, I didn't want to throw anything away. I kept it all. And my wife sits here today, like, toss it. And I'm like, no, this is the teddy bear I had when I was 2. And that's just my stuff. For losing somebody, there's all of mom's knickknacks, things like that. And we get emotional involved in it. We may not want to do something in particular simply because it creates uncomfortable emotions. So this stalls things. Corporate trustees are fantastic, but not everybody can afford them. They can be expensive. I always suggest if there's a lot of fighting, brother and sister, brothers or sisters arguing back and forth, unable to work, corporate trustees, fantastic. But to save money, let's first look for a close family friend, somebody who has the time, understands it, and goes that way, and try to save some money, because nobody wants to be paying all these thousands of dollars to somebody to handle the estate. Maybe you can find somebody closer, understands it, give them a little bit of salary or something while they're doing it. But before you go to the big guys who charge a lot, try to work it internally if you can.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of the big guys who charge a lot, you know what, Matt, I would like us to go into business together, if you don't mind. But I don't want to. I don't want to spend any of my money. I don't want to spend any of my time. I don't want to go to any other conferences. I don't want to kiss any babies. I don't want to shake any hands. But I do want a healthy percentage. Matter of fact, I want at least half. Are you okay with going into business with me?
No, unfortunately, I'm really busy, Randolph. So.
Well, what other business partner is making that same offer? The IRS. How does somebody avoid a business partner like me? The offer that I just tried to make to you, where you do all the work, but I take half of your money. How do you help people when it comes to taxes, when it comes to this estate planning and protecting their wealth?
Definitely. Tax in the U.S. is paramount. It's so much to it. And there is a difference between accounting and strategy. And I always talk about this. Accounting is looking backwards. You're just recording. Strategy is looking forward and planning ahead where, hey, you're going to write history. And so for a lot of people, we pay taxes. There's not much we can do. We can make all of our deductions. We can do certain things that we can. But then there's other strategies. But in order to fall into this category, you have to be paying typically enough in taxes. So normally what that number is if you're a W-2 employee, you're paying $20,000 in taxes, which is a lot of money. That's a lot of money to be giving away. And so once you're in that category, typically what it means is you have other means of doing stuff. And so it may be as simple as, hey, let's form your company, let's reorganize it, save on certain taxes. Let's make sure we're doing whatever we can to pull money out that would be income for the company and place it into certain things that will allow us to not be taxed on them. And then there's other certain things as people grow in wealth. I'm a firm believer, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And with that, what I mean by don't put all your money in stocks and bonds. Go out, buy other types of assets, real estate, other things that have valuation and give you that true protection, diversification. And so what we'll look for in these cases are typically who we're working with are people who are willing to do real estate, people who are willing to do private equity type oil and gas depreciation syndications. You can do charitable syndications where you're putting money into it, you're getting depreciation out on the front so it can lower your overall AGI and save you some money on taxes. This is where strategy comes. There's no real, boom, you no longer owe taxes. That doesn't happen. Not with the Internal Revenue Code, not with our IRS. You have to come up with ways that you can save money. A lot of people, and here's a misconception I have all the time, and I get phone calls all the time, especially in December. Hey, I need to do a charitable donation to save money on taxes. Well, the problem with a charitable donation is you're only going to acquire a little bit of a return off of this, a tax savings on this. So you're putting up $1. Let's say you're at the 35% tax bracket. You're only actually saving 35 cents. So now you've spent 65 cents to save 35 cents. But people don't understand this. And so I have to sit there and say, well, hang on, this isn't really how charity works. Charity is a giving strategy that just happens to save us a little bit in taxes, but it's not the way we want to go. What we want to do are find things that will actually lower our taxes, but we want them to also be types of purchases that can give a return on investment or can give you an asset that will appreciate in value over time. And so that's what tax strategy is really looking for is let's look at where you're at. Let's look at what our options are. And this is how much we can save you over 2 years. And then you start doing this every single year. So I think my CPA has over 80 different tax strategies that we can implement. So there's all kind of different ones, but a lot of it just comes down to is let's lower AGI through certain methods, specifically depreciation or other types of mannerisms.
Oh, yeah. And, selfishly, when it comes to purchasing an asset that appreciates over time, tax deferred. I'm going to selfishly say, make sure you buy some life insurance. That's something that you can pass to the next generation tax free, right?
That it is.
So selfishly, I'm going to say that, right? So, and what we're talking about is avoiding voluntary taxes. We're not talking about people illegally evading taxes. We're talking about legally avoiding taxes. And there are some red-blooded Americans that seem to love paying taxes. And when I say seem to, right? Because I think some people cope. They have coping mechanisms, and they force themselves to just be okay with getting slaughtered by their uncle, right? This guy that opened your door in the middle of the night, right? With the hall light shining in the like. They just find a way to cope with this weird, creepy uncle, right? But when I tell people that, I say, hey, even if you believe in the thought and the idea behind taxes, would you not agree that maybe the government isn't spending your money wisely? And a lot of people, they'll say, they're not necessarily spending their money wisely. And I say, well, if I could introduce you to somebody like Meredith, and he can show you how to avoid these voluntary taxes, and not just to be greedy, but you can give this money that you save to the friends, family, and charities that you know, like, and love, and you can actually see that it's doing what it needs to be doing for you to do your part and give it back. Wouldn't you prefer to rather do that than just give it to an entity that you just said is maybe managing it wrongly? Wouldn't you prefer that? And usually they say yes.
Randolph, I didn't choose tax law so that I could be a good accountant. I didn't. I was tired of paying taxes. I wanted to know how the law was set up and how to maneuver around it. And what we find with the wealthy is that they utilize these strategies. And so it becomes, why am I not utilizing these same strategies? I can diversify my overall holdings altogether with certain things that are much more tax deductible than other things. Take depreciation, have still a return on money, and then transfer things without ever paying taxes. We talk about a 1031 a lot. Investment properties, investment owners, it's don't sell your property, transfer it to a new property, and understand how that can save you money. And so it's the same thing. When I talk to people all the time, it's like, well, we can save you this much money. I get this look like, this is illegal. It's like, no, it's not illegal. This is the law, and understanding the law. But a lot of people, they don't understand the difference. So they go to their accountant, they pay that money, their taxes are done, they pay, and they're okay with that. Other people have gotten to the point where, just like you said, it's what am I getting out of this? I want to pay the least I can legally, make the most I can legally, and then move on from that. And especially right now with the way taxes are, and everybody's just tired, like, what am I getting for my dollars? I think people are looking for ways to save, and it's not complex. There's like I said, over 80 different types of strategies that we use for people to save you money. And it doesn't have to be a ton of money. It's enough that it's worth it, and it continues to grow over the course of years.
Oh yeah, they just don't know what they don't know, right? And some people are holding things very close to their chest. Right. And a lot of times you just need the right people in your corner letting you know what you don't know in order to help you out. Right. Because you mentioned that 1031 exchange. And once again, it's about knowing that code. A lot of the exchange that I talk about with a lot of the people that I work with is a 1035 exchange. And basically what they do is what they're able to. So I tell people, once again, it's just a tool. Like a lot of these strategies, we use products that are just tools, just like Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson, they might use a golf club. If I use that same golf club, I would do nothing compared to what they do, because it's not about the tool, it's about the swing, right? And it's about knowing, for example, with the 1035 exchange, all right, let me look at my current permanent policy. And if I set this policy up to build cash value during my lifetime, let me take how much I put in altogether, and then let me take my surrender value and let me subtract what I put in from my surrender value, and then divide it again by what I put in, and get that internal rate of return to where I'm not just looking at these papers telling me what I made. I literally use the formula that Randolph showed me how to use to determine if this was structured correctly. Because a lot of people, they get these things going because they heard about these internal revenue codes. For example, a lot of the internal revenue codes that I utilize a lot when I'm dealing with life insurance is Internal Revenue Code 72E, Internal Revenue Code 7702, Internal Revenue Code 101A. 72E says as long as it's considered a life policy, then it grows tax-free, tax-deferred. I'm sorry, not tax-free, tax-deferred. And 7702 says as long as I access it correctly, then I can utilize it during my lifetime tax-free. And 101A says whenever I die, it blossoms to a larger number and passes to my loved ones tax-free. But if they did not know that, they would be stuck and they wouldn't actually succeed. And I'm a wordsmith, Matt. I really like words, right? Have you ever heard of the word idiot and imbecile?
I have.
So growing up, my grandfather, he was one of those people who they had back in the day, right? They used to have door-to-door encyclopedia salesmen, door-to-door dictionary salesman. And he was that guy that kept those people in business. He would buy the encyclopedias. He would buy the dictionary, right? And when you look in one of those old dictionaries and you look up the definition for the word idiot, it'll say somebody with the mental capacity from 0 to 3 years old. And then when you look up the definition of the word imbecile, it'll say somebody with the mental capacity of 3 to 7 years old. And then when you look up both of those words now, they both just simply say a stupid person. But what I did, Matt, this is what I did. I said, I want to know what the origin of the word idiot is. And I looked up the origin of the word idiot. The very first definition was a private person. Now, when you think about that, you're like, hold up. So the original definition of the word idiot was a private person. And what they meant, it was a private person was the opposite of a public citizen, somebody in the Senate, right? Now, a lot of people say the government still considers us to be idiots, right? But that's essentially how they said. They said, all right, an idiot is a private person, a normal citizen, and it just graduated to a stupid person, right? And then I say, well, hold up. If the original definition of the word idiot is a private person, and idiot and idiot is just the first stage of imbecile, I wonder what the original definition of the word imbecile is. I looked it up, Matt. Do you know the original definition of the word imbecile is a person without a supporting staff? Now, they meant staff as in stick, like as in, you use a staff you can walk with, you can defend yourself with, you can reach with, but words aren't an accident. Just like a human staff, you can use it to help you, use you to do things, use you to do all of these things. So I realized that somebody that doesn't hire somebody like Matt, somebody that doesn't hire a life insurance expert like myself, you're an idiot. You're an imbecile. And I'm not even insulting you. I'm just calling you a private person without a supporting staff. You don't want to be an idiot. You don't want to be an imbecile. How do you convince people to not be idiots and imbeciles and to work with your company?
So great question. My background helps because not only am I a licensed attorney, I'm a certified financial planning practitioner. I have all of my licenses for full service brokerage firm. So I understand what you're doing. I know what you're doing because I do it as well. It's a separate side ordeal. The goal is to bring it all in, but FINRA makes interesting rules that things must be separated. And so when I'm looking at somebody, it's not just, hey, we're tunnel vision on this. It's let me see the whole entire thing because I know what's happening there. Or I have my CPA who is sitting on the phone with me. We're looking at it together. So there's all these multiple minds looking at things together. And then it becomes a very simple thing. Here's where you are. This is what you have going on. You told me you wanted to be here, or you don't know where you want to go, and we're telling you you should be over here. And at that point, it's up to the person, whether or not they want to go into that move or not. All you can really do, and you're a salesman, you understand this, is give the person the information. That's all you can really do, and it's up to them to decide. And some people, it takes a long time to decide, I want to go that route. But here's what you find with the people who do go that route, who do understand the value of this, is they sleep better at night. They don't worry about being sued by people. They don't worry that, hey, if I die, my wife is not going to be taken care of. My children aren't going to be taken care of. They don't worry if everything I've built is suddenly come down in a crashing halt simply because I passed away and didn't plan properly. And I think not everybody wants to be there, but there's enough people who want to be there and are looking for that route. And then it's just becoming the message is the marketing, which is I'm here to help you get that. And so once they walk in, a lot of people already know what I do. They're here for a reason. They understand, hey, you understand business, you understand law, finance. Help me because I'm tired of worrying about these things. What do I have to do to get there better? And then on top of that, I hear it every day, and I don't want to pay the IRS any more money.
Oh, yeah, that's the easiest pain point for practitioners to get people in the door. Matt, is there a question that I did not ask you that I should have?
Oh, man, we've covered everything. I think it's not really a question. I think kind of a last point for me is the value of all of this together. Stop looking at all these different things as separate disciplines and look at it as your whole life. We talk about money. That's what we do in the U.S. I go to Mexico and I stop talking about money. It's magnificent. You talk about food, you talk about whatever's going on. Then you come back to the U.S. and all you do is work. It's just work, work, work. It's too much effort to go get food. It's 40 minutes just to get to the place that I want to go. I'll just stay home. This is our mindset at this point. And there has to be something in balance. And so we have to understand it's not all about money, that there's these other things. But money itself being so important to us, you have to understand that if you're searching for that money, you're protecting that money, it all falls under money. Money's just not making money. It's protecting it. It's handing it over to the people you love. It's making sure that the things you built carry on and that they're making you money. And when you look at it as one system where it all is interwoven, it all works together, it becomes much easier to see. Stop looking at asset protection as, oh, I'm protecting my business. No, you're protecting everything. Stop looking at tax strategy as, I just want to save some money this year. No, you want to save money every year. Look at the estate planning and the trust formations and all this stuff as, I'm protecting the money I built so that it can pass on. Look at investing, look at insurance, look at all these things together instead of separate disciplines. And then you see the whole puzzle. And then it's much easier to make a decision on what do I need to do because you see what's missing, you see the gaps, and then it's just find somebody who can help you with it.
Do you consider yourself to be a family office or a multidisciplinary office or some other title?
I guess I'm family office mostly is what it is. It's a lot of different things combined into one, and it's the one-stop shop, as I mentioned to you. It's stop going see 5 people who don't even communicate with each other. Come see me, and let me and my team communicate with you in the way that you deserve and the way you're paying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Simplicity is valuable. Simplicity is valuable. One more time. please let everybody know who you are, what do you do, and how they can get in touch.
Definitely. I'm Matt Meredith. I'm with Meridian Legal Advisors. You can check us out at meridianlg.com. That's Meridian, Meridian, LG.com. You can find our contacts there. We've got LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all my marketing, Randolph. It's all there. So you can click on it, find me, see me doing videos and getting uncomfortable and trying to promote my business to everyone else.
Absolutely. This has been another episode of the Entreprenudist Podcast, a place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. I am your host, Randolph Love III. And remember, if you want to see our beautiful ebony and ivory faces, make sure you check out the show notes. You can see more information on how to get in touch with Matt. You can also click the link to watch the video. Until next time, don't play with it, stay with it until you make pay with it. This is the Entreprenudist Podcast, signing off.